So today we're going to do something a little different. I say that a lot, don't I? But I feel this call, this move to move more and more into trauma healing, grief, loss, childhood traumas, and traumas from abusive relationships. And I know I started out in the beginning of this whole podcast really talking about the traumas of abortion. And while there are traumas for abortion, and they are very important to move through and heal, there's also other components that can be around that. And that can be something like an abusive relationship or childhood trauma. And many times they are very much intermingled, where one, let's say childhood trauma, may have led into some abusive relationships. And I'd like to clarify, abusive relationships isn't always about the physical abuse. It is also about the emotional abuse. So a few things going on there. And times we may find where all of these things may or may not have led to an unwanted pregnancy that ended with abortion, which tipped you into a whole lot of feelings around that. And all this can get magnified, and we can start to almost like stir it all in the same pot. And it becomes hard to discern which is which sometimes, until we start to uncover what is top, the top reason, if you will, the top feeling, maybe is a better word, of what you're feeling. Where is that coming from? Or if you're having, I may ask you, what brings you here today, or what would you like to work on today? What do you feel like that piece is for you today that's coming up for you? And sometimes when we start on at this level up here by my eyes, like, it can be kind of a high level, and we start to move through and down into each layer. And each one of those layers, I know I say this quite a bit, takes time. It takes time to truly allow yourself to heal. Many times when we don't want to feel the feelings that the memories can give us, what's triggering for us, or maybe it's around certain people, certain events. It could be, a picture that you've seen on the roadside, or a movie that you were streaming in, and it just brought in all of these emotions. And then we start to push them aside. We don't want to feel them because it just feels like a lot. And sometimes it can be very overwhelming. So we start to push them aside, push them down. It's like, no, 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 I can't do this right now. Maybe later. And we keep telling ourselves that. And what can happen for many people is, as we keep pushing these feelings out, these experiences, these memories, these things, we just, we really don't want to confront, we don't want to deal with, because, well, let's face it, they're painful, right? They can be very painful. And it brings up a lot of feelings, and it may bring up tears, it may bring up anger. And those are okay, because healing does come through tears. I know we've heard that now and then, but also healing can come through releasing some anger. And I'm not talking about hurting another person with words or yourself, but allow yourself to be angry. We grew up as women, we grew up saying, oh, be nice. You don't need to be angry about that. It's okay. It's okay. That's just how things are. And then we bury that anger, or we bury that experience, that feeling, and we keep burying it and burying it and burying it until it starts to bubble up and you're angry. And, that's part of it. But what's behind the anger? Someone asked me this one time. I don't remember who it was, but they were just like, okay, Terry, you're angry, but what's behind the anger? And, I'll give you an example of my own. When I really let myself feel all the feelings, the anger, and ask myself, and it took some time. Okay. It wasn't like a one shot 5-minute deal. It took me some time to really sit with the question of what's behind the anger. What was behind the anger? And how did that make me feel? Back to those feelings again. Anger masks many times a lot of hurt and a lot of pain. So we kind of push it all down, push it all down, and push it all down. And then something happens. Someone, gosh, I don't know, could have said something that may have triggered you, and all this stuff comes rushing up. And it can be overwhelming, and you are angry, and it just goes, wow. You just almost explode, or maybe you do. I don't know. Or you feel like you're going to explode and you push it all back down again. So you kind of got this seesaw thing going on. Either way, it's not good for your heart. It's not good for you physically. And quite honestly, it's not good for your mind, because we start sitting in that box, and that box gets fuller and fuller and fuller of all of these repressed emotions that start to bubble up, like I was saying, and we blanket all of those with the term of anger, because it feels angry. Your body feels angry because you haven't allowed yourself to feel, because we don't want to feel the uncomfortable emotions, the sadness or grief. We don't want to feel the loss. We don't want to feel the pain. We don't want to feel the judgment. We don't want to feel the self-judgment that we put ourselves through many, many times. We don't want to feel the hurt. So we push it away. But eventually that box is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller, because we have pushed so much out that we don't want to feel, we don't want to deal with. We want to, I don't know, pretend that you don't have those feelings. You don't want to acknowledge them. So if you don't acknowledge them, they don't exist. But they do exist, and they are living inside you every day. They're sitting in your heart. They are sitting in your heart. They're sitting in your blood cells. And truthfully, they are sitting in your belly, your intestines, your joints, all parts of you. Because when we continue to push it all aside, keep going, push it all aside, keep going, it's living somewhere, and it's living in your body. And when we explode, in air quotes like that, when we get angry or we feel overwhelmed, your body, your heart is telling you, please, please, can we work on some of this? And here's what we need to work on. And it could be something just very simple. Why do I have all this anger? Okay, well, let's find out. How I start to work with this when these things start to happen, um, for other women. And if I get angry like that, I come back and I ask myself, I do the same thing for myself that I do for you. There's another gnat. I don't know what it is about these gnats. And I start tapping, and I will tell myself, even though I am feeling really angry right now, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole tapping sequence. I'm going to kind of shorten this up like a lot, just for the sake of the recording and the podcast and your time. And then I do that about 3 times. And then I'll tap on the top of my head about 8 or 9 times. This anger I am feeling, I will tap above my eyebrow. This anger that I'm having, the side of my eye, this overwhelmed feeling that I'm having under the eye, the stomach ache that I'm having under the nose, this anger that's sitting in my body. What is it telling me under the on the chin, between the chin? This anger I'm feeling in my belly, and I'm tapping right now on my collarbone, and then underneath the arm. This anger that I'm feeling in my body. There's more to that, but it just kind of gives you a sample of what that could look like. And then you just kind of sit for just like 30 seconds or more. Have a sip of water. I do recommend water, because we can get dehydrated as these energies move out of our bodies. And it's part of the healing process. So take a sip of water. I'll take some tea. And then I would ask you, okay, how are you feeling? If you had to tell me how you're feeling right now, between a scale of 1 to 10, 1 feeling like awesome, and 10's feeling, man, yeah, I've still got some of this anger in my body. We're going to talk about that for a few minutes. It's like, what do you think is making you so angry? What do you think's behind that anger? And we talk about that. And I take that feedback and we start tapping again. And my goal is in a session, as we work through this with you, is to get you, let's just say you're at like 8 or 9. So you've got some, you're feeling kind of, not feeling so great about it. You're pretty angry and you're feeling pretty overwhelmed and hurt. For me, a lot of times when I got angry like that, I was hurt. And that was kind of like my go to. If someone hurt me, emotionally hurt me, I got angry. And I never said anything to anybody. I would just say, okay. And I would walk away and I would just bury that hurt inside me. Sometimes, I didn't do it very often. I would let myself cry, but I didn't understand why I was crying because I really wasn't acknowledging the hurt. I thought I was crying because they just made me so dang angry. But what I had to ask myself and I would ask you, what's really behind the anger? So back to the tapping. We talk and then I pull out, maybe what that secondary thing that came up for you, why we were tapping the first time. And we go through that sequence again. And then you take a sip of water or give it about a minute or so. And I'm going to ask you the same questions. And I'm going to ask you to rate yourself of how you're feeling because that gives me some indication of if the energy is moving from your body or something else is coming up. So if the number goes up higher or if it goes down lower and you're starting to feel better, you're starting to allow, and I use allow those energies to move through you that have been living inside you for so long. And that is so powerful. So that's one of the tools we use. It's not invasive. It's something you can do for yourself. I personally find it much more powerful when you do it with partner. So me as a guide and then you. And it's a safe space. And I hear from so many women when they are in a space with me, even virtually, that they feel the energy coming through to them of compassion and love and safety. And I give that space freely to anyone who wants to come in this space with me. And we work through that. So I give my space, give my services for a fee. And then I ask you to give your time. We're kind of getting off on a tangent here. I'm kind of looking at my notes because I was afraid I would start to go around the mulberry bush, and I kind of did. But it takes time. There is going to be layers that come up. And you might think that, oh my gosh, I healed from this childhood trauma or this abusive relationship from this person a year or two ago. Why is this coming up now? Because there was more. There was more to it. And your body knows when it's time for you to take the next step to heal that next layer. And we go through the same process. Maybe it's tapping, maybe it's journaling, maybe it's verbal processing. I find that to be very effective too. And journaling can look like verbal journaling because I've met so many women who are like, I don't journal. I don't want to journal. And some of them is because when they put it in writing, I think it makes them feel like almost reliving it. But now it's in writing. Now it's on a piece of paper. It's not just living up here and telling stories on a repeat in the heart, but now it's on a piece of paper. Holy cow, it's on a piece of paper. Someone might see it. And I tell people so many times, you get to choose who may or may not ever read that journal. I have got journals laying all over my house, old ones that I have finished up. I hold on to them. And you know what? If they read them, okay. Or I can choose to get rid of them. I can choose to burn them. I can choose to rip them up and put them in water and let them disintegrate in a new moon, or burn them on a new moon or a full moon, I meant to say, sorry. And you get to choose. You do. Who sees it? Who doesn't see it? And I've had people say, okay, well, I'm going to journal, but if anything ever happens to me, I'm going to tell whomever, a very close friend or family member, that they need to go in my house, pull those journals and get rid of them right away so no one else can see them. And I can understand that. again. But again, you get to choose. You get to choose how we move through moving those energies out of your body, allowing yourself to start to heal. And maybe one of the pieces could be something very simple, like setting a boundary. A lot of times when we hold ourselves in such rigid self-judgment and control, pushing those feelings out, don't want to deal with them, don't want to deal with the trauma, the hurt, the pain, the none of that stuff. And we try so hard not to get angry. We're making ourselves, eventually, we will make ourselves sick. What if you said no? What if you told yourself, no, I'm going to let myself start to heal? Mine's going to start telling all kinds of stories. It's not safe. It's not safe. What would somebody think? They're going to self judge you. They're going to say or think very mean things about you. I've not had that experience. I've never had someone that I have worked with at that level judge me, guide me, love me, have compassion and empathy. But judging, no. That judging, that self-judgment, those are stories your mind is telling you in order to keep it all inside so we are safe in this little box that keeps getting smaller and smaller. And eventually we can't move around. There's no way to move because we have taken all these things and we have piled it in this box over the years. Let's start unpacking that box. And we can't muscle through it. We cannot push through healing. Well, okay, you can. And when you do that and you're like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? I'm ready to go, 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 go. I want to get through all this and I just want to be done with it. We're never really done with it. And when you're pushing yourself and the process, you will not heal the real issue for you. It could be the hurt around a situation, the pain, the loss, the grief. Could also be that you are trying to push through and not see, accept, do the forgiveness of another, the forgiveness of yourself. And many times it comes down to forgiving another person and the self forgiveness. When we hold judgment over another person, we are also holding judgment over ourselves. And we can be in that box in a very deep, dark place when we start doing that. Judging, non forgiveness, no matter what they've done to us. And I've had some pretty terrible things happen to me by other people's hand. I forgave them. I forgave every one of them. It took me time. It will take you time. And then when we don't forgive other people or we don't forgive ourselves, we can really tighten up that box that we put ourselves in. Forgiveness is a freeing process. You can forgive someone else. Are you really freeing them? I'm going to say no, because many times they don't even know that you were angry or hurt, but you're freeing yourself by not holding in that anger, that hurt, that loss, those emotions, those feelings that you've been carrying so long for this person because of something that they said that just really, really was painful for you. You know, I had to forgive the doctor who performed the abortion. And I say had to because I had to do it for me and the nurse that was there. And when I moved through those things, I could see ultimately in this case where I had to forgive myself for even having the abortion, but also forgiving myself for holding these people hostage here because I hadn't forgiven them for what they had done. And that's a bigger, bigger, bigger story that I will not go into here. But we can't muscle through it. We can't rush it. We cannot push through it. And quite honestly, we really can't pretend it doesn't exist because those stories are playing on repeat up here. And your heart, your body, your gut, your digestion, your intestines are telling you something different. Pain, indigestion, digestive issues, food sensitivities, aches and pains in your joints, headaches. There's just a few of the things when we do not let ourselves release the energies. So I'm going to flip this and say, okay, now you're like, okay, I'm on this healing journey and here we go. And this is going to be cool. And it is cool. It's not always easy, but the effect, wow. It is a wow. What can you see in your heart's eye that you want your community, friends, your family, your home, you, where do you want to be? And if you can see that, even if it's a little cloudy or a little far away in your heart's eye, let's get you there. Let's get you there. So, with all of that, I will end this. And because this was rather lengthy, I will leave my email, my social media handles, and a scheduling link in the show notes if you would like to schedule some time to talk to me to find out how to work with me on a more one-on-one basis. That's where my biggest strength is working with you on a one-on-one basis. Um, yeah, so that's kind of it. Please subscribe. It helps others to find me, and comment. I would love to know what you think.